Change the way you see everything through asset-based thinking. Kathryn Cramer, PhD, and Hank Wasiak. When you change the way you see things, the things you see change. Part 0. How small shifts make seismic differences. Introduction to ABT. Imagine this. People from all walks of life, professionals, business, athletes, medicine, medical assistants, consultants, managers, mothers, fathers, teachers, journalists, administrators, surpass their current levels of excellence and achievement just by shifting ever so lightly the way they see everything. Just think, what could be possible if people focused on their attention on opportunities rather than problems, strengths rather than weaknesses, what can be done instead of what can't be done. When you decrease your focus on the wrong deficit-based thinking, you increase your focus on what is right, asset-based thinking, ABT, asset-based thinking. You build your enthusiasm and energy, and it strengthens your relationships and moves people and productivity to the next level. DBT is hardwired. Most of us are not accomplished asset-based thinkers. Instead, we rely heavily on deficit-based thinking. DBT is deficit-based thinking. DBT concentrates on personal gaps and weaknesses. What is bothersome and irritating about others is what's not working, problematic, and holding us back. Our reliance on DBT comes naturally. The human nervous system is hardwired to be more sensitive to negative signals or impending danger than to positive signals of burgeoning opportunities. In today's post 9/11 world of economic uncertainty, threats of terrorism, alarming media headlines, we are constantly reminded of the potential negative side of virtually everything around us. No wonder people are more leery, skeptical, and worried than ever, and anxiety levels rise. Deficit-based thinking becomes our steady diet, but this steady diet of DBT leads to mental, emotional, and spiritual starvation. It zaps our energy and robs us of the enthusiasm and convictions that we need to make the most of our lives and positively impact the lives of others. In spite of our biological programming, deficit-based thinking does not have the rule of our minds, spirits, or actions. With concentrated, well-guided effort, we can regain energy, harness our inherent and albeit sometimes latent optimism, and powerfully engage what life has to offer. All it takes is a shift, ever so slightly, in the way we see everything. ABT is hardwired too. That is what this book is all about. What is ABT? Asset-based thinking equips you with the special ways of viewing everyday lives and yields maximum returns on your investment of attention and effort. It changes the way you respond in the privacy of your own thoughts, in every conversation, interaction, circumstance, to ignite possibilities. Asset-based thinking is a concrete cognitive process aimed on identifying the assets, or example, strengths, talents, synergies, possibilities that are immediately available in yourself, other people, and any situation. In the light of opportunity, asset-based thinking blocks out the distractions and creates a focal point of concentration and high mental energy that keeps you alert, inspired until you have maximized all that there is to gain. In face of problems or uncertainty, asset-based thinking shows you how the glass can be half empty or half full simultaneously. That is what makes asset-based thinking practical and useful. But asset-based thinking also magnifies how the turn is what half full and half empty is to your best advantage. That is how asset-based thinking produces dividends that keep paying off. Asset-based thinking increases your self-confidence, makes you more proactive, more effective with others, and expands your power to influence how long things will turn out. What ABT is not. Asset-based thinking is not blind optimism and magical thinking. It does not offer a quick fix over promise results, and it is not based on theory alone. It is based on direct, systematic observation into how growing minority of highly effective, satisfied people think, feel, and act. Asset-based thinking takes positive thinking to a whole new level of engagement. While positive thinking calls to positive attitudes about life and the future, asset-based thinking calls for positive action and traction in the present moment. ABD puts the power of personal, interpersonal, and situation assets in your hands so that you can make progress and create the future that you most desire. ABT is not DBT. In contrast to ABT with DBT, we scan the interference with what is disturbing and not working. DBT works more like a defense mechanism, showing us the problems from a negative angle so we are able to solve and eliminate whatever impedes success. It puts us on guard, fostering an anxiety that robs us from confidence, hope, and deprives us from pleasure and productivity. Even though DBT protects us under dire circumstances, and most of us become addicted to it dominates our way of thinking. Unfortunately, a steady diet of DBT leads to starvation, a depletion in energy, creating suspicion and trouble, problems and disappointment lurk around every corner. We learn then to keep our backup as DBT fuels our insecurity. Left unchecked, DBT clouds our perceptions, blinds us to possibilities, and limits our options. Sounds familiar? Well, what are some of these? A DBT message versus an ABT message. Not this again. Or ABT message. At least I know how to deal with this. DBT. Watch out. ABT. Heads up. Why didn't you? What was in your way? That won't work. What could work? Oh no, not again. Things could be better, but I've seen this before. I'll never make it. Put one foot in front and the other one will move. That's just the way it is. Whatever it is, I'll work with it. That's impossible. What's possible? It's not good enough. Forget perfection. He's out of his mind. What makes him tick? I'll never get this done. This will take longer than I expected. This sucks. I'm disappointed. What's the matter with me? What am I learning? How could you let this happen? How could you have prevented this? Once again, you've fallen short. Step back up to the plate again. Get out of my way. Here I come. If only. Hindsight is 20/20. They just don't get it. They disagree. How did I miss that? I missed that? Whose fault is that? What's done is done. Move on. Why didn't I do this or that? What can I do better next time? I can't. I will. That'll never change. How can I get around this? ABT messages. At least I know how to deal with this. Heads up. What was in my way? What was in your way? What could work? Things could be better. I've seen worse. Put one foot in front of the other and the other will move. Whatever it is, I'll work with it. What is possible? Forget perfection. What makes him tick? This will take longer than I expected. I'm disappointed. But what am I learning? How could this have been prevented? Step back up to the plate again. Here I come. Hindsight's 20/20. They disagree. I missed that. What's done is done. Let's move on. What can I do better next time? I will. And how can I get around this? Great. Now let's focus on how to change. Are you DBT or ABT? You decide. When you make a splash, you could choose to deficit-based thinking. Hold your breath, pinch yourself, don't tell anybody, and keep your head down and hope. Or when you make a splash, you could choose to asset-based thinking is to go with it. Congratulate yourself, broadcast the good news, and laugh, smile, and be grateful. When you make a mistake, you could choose to DBT, fault yourself, second-guess your motives, tell yourself how clueless you were, and learn always to look back so it'll never happen again. Or when you make a mistake, you could choose to ABT, own it, make amends, say I should have had a V8, learn never to look back but behold, and be bold and move on. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. ABT factoid. If you are free enough to act independently in your own environment, then you will possess great stability in the face of deprivation, failure, or loss. The humanistic school of psychology represents such theorists such as Rollo May, Carl Rogers, Erich Fromm, and Abraham Maslow, espouses in the view from which sense and autonomy contributes to self-esteem, and that of both one to help remain strong and healthy in the face of hardships. That's an ABT factoid. ABT is ready whenever you are. Remember, the choice is up to you. Asset-based thinkers. Asset-based thinking calls some small shifts from the way we absorb, perceive, filter, and interpret, and changes the way that we see everything, leading to dramatic improvements in the way that we live. ABT zeroes in on what's working rather than what's not, in favor for inspiration and aspiration or desperation. And it is infectious. Every day the opportunity to engage in asset-based thinking stands before us in all kinds of situations, good and bad, large and small. It leads directly to the thrill of victory, while sidestepping the agony of defeat. After 9/11, Mayor Rudy Giuliani focused on thinking that he had the media's attentions on making acts of heroism more meaningful acts of terrorism. Oprah Winfrey devotes a time of talent to spotlighting people who live lives inspired to purpose and passion, dispelling the myths of drama, dysfunctions, and only the other things that sell. You sit in on a meeting drained by people who are complaining and blaming others for mistakes, and then you move to a conversation in a different direction by asking, how can this be the best problem that we've ever had? How could this be the best problem that we've ever had? www.assetbasedthinking.com. Visit the ABT website to share some wonderful experiences, stories, advice, and words of wisdom. Everyday examples of ABT. ABT is a choice, not a personality trait. You sit down for dinner. The conversation begins with complaints about the day, and you shift everyone to share the best things that happened to them that day and encouraging them to relieve the highlight points. Everybody at the table is engaged. Dinner becomes another high point. ABT is a choice. It's not a personality trait. You face a serious setback in the business. Sales are down 20%. You bring the team together rather than dwell the possibilities that can go wrong. You choose to build the past achievements and current capabilities that will move the team forward by shifting from react to rebound. The momentum builds. A project dumped in your lap with zero budget and due yesterday could beat your head against the wall, but instead you decide to jump in it and do it. With this new will-do attitude, the project is finished in half the time. With your energy intact, you start something new and far more interesting and engaging. It's like a zoom lens. When you focus the majority of your attention on asset-based zones of your experience, life draws you in. You feel more motivated and energetic, more purposeful and passionate. You become proactive and creative versus reactive. You are more able to concentrate on making important things happen instead of preventing and correcting the bad stuff. The book teaches you to tap the power of asset-based thinking so that you can learn and so that you can change the way you see everything, change the way you see yourself, change the way you see others, change the way you see situations for better from this moment on. ABT ripple effect. Tap your personal assets first. All others will follow. Personal assets are your purpose, your passion, confidence, curiosity, resilience, courage, analytical and intuitive skills, emotional intelligence, subject matter expertise, open-mindedness, integrity, and ethics. Then rationale assets are your compassion, your empathy, mutual trust and respect, commitment to the welfare of others, your skills in collaboration, giving and receiving feedback, resolving conflict, listening, advocacy, enrollment. And situational assets are your challenges that promote breakthrough situations, challenges that promote breakthrough solutions, setbacks that promote new standards and performance, mistakes that often offer new insight and learning, opportunities that provide for innovative mastery and advancement. The ABT ripple effect for personal assets, rational, relational assets, and situational assets. Essential steps to reading this book. 1 through 7. Number 1, take 45 minutes and read the book from start to finish. Laugh, ponder, wonder, let it move you. Number 2, mentally note every idea that you agree with. Put it into practice and give yourself an A. Stay open with whatever you don't agree with. Tough to try it for 7 days and see what happens. You may be surprised. Don't worry. You can always go back to your DBT ideas. Take notes, especially when something surprises you, catches your attention, confirms you already know. Write it in the margins, and this book is for you. Do the workouts and reflections. Really, do the workouts and the reflections. Make one change in the way that you see yourself and other people in situations and practice the ABD approach twice a day for 21 days, and that's how long it takes for you to form a habit. Track your success and tell us at least one person or more. Track your success and tell at least one person more if you're ambitious. You're well on your way to becoming an asset-based thinker and changing the way that you see everything, and get ready for the rush of energy, a definite byproduct of ABT. Use this book, browse, zoom, freeze, enjoy. Each section lays in a simple but important aspect of asset-based thinking. You can be absorbed separately or taken in the context of the entire book. To really harness the power of asset-based thinking, be sure to connect the dots page by page. Like the kids' drawing game, by connecting each idea together, you will reward. And you will become an asset-based thinker and discover a whole new pattern for living. And you can join the very powerful group of positive conspirators who make the world a better place from which we all live. Change the way you see yourself. Change the way you see yourself, part 1, preview. The stories of David and Denise that follow illustrate how becoming a proficient asset-based thinking begins with changing the way that you see yourself. What you see, think, and say, do is relative to who you are and what drives you, and what other people and other situation you encounter is. From its foundation, the principle, magnify what's best, focus on what's next, requires you to be keenly aware of who you are and what you want to achieve while navigating and demanding chaotic situations and responding to priorities of others. One secret to staying on course is to keep on your smallest achievements in the forefront of your mind. Make what you want able to accomplish more important than what you haven't. When you magnify what's best and focus on what's next, your personal sense of confidence and competence increases automatically. You approach life with an inside out, not an outside in, and engage demands, even as setbacks and mistakes, from perspective of how they can serve you and your priorities. You ask yourself, how can I advance on my agenda given to the current situation, the current set of circumstances? How can I advance my agenda given the current set of circumstances? Your day starts with envisioning what you see as possible and what you want, regardless of the current reality. Your vision guides you, speaks to you, coaches you on what you need to do next, all day long. You set up a desire, driven with the way of navigating through your ups and downs, and proactively pursue things to ignite the interests and passions and energies and ingenuity. You still respond to the needs and interests of others and requirements of pressing circumstances, but you transform every encounter into a fuel for advancing your agenda. ABT real story. David's story. Late one January morning, I was waiting motionless behind a curtain in a brightly illuminated corporation television studio in Cupertino, California. I heard the voice of an announcer say, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our commentator for this program about how to manage the marketplace, David Washburn," and I was about to host my first hour-long seminar before a live studio audience of 400 simultaneously and 9,000 viewers in the office throughout the country. This was a make-it-or-break-it moment. And little did I know how much a career-defining turning point this step onto the stage would be. And I took a deep breath and stepped out onto the stage, and as a acute sense of risk washed over me, took control of my thoughts, my moment to shine was quickly turned into an intimidating threat. But it wasn't well enough for me as a pro to also hear another ambient, much more distant voice urging me to rise to the challenge. I could feel the threat versus challenge, war waging inside of me. Two separate visions were playing out, and when I saw myself tripping over words and losing my train of thought and walking off stage simultaneously in the background, I saw myself composed and connected to the audience, my messages and delivered to the riveting in the split second I decided to filter out the images of failure and filter in the images of success. The change of focus allowed me to feel the challenge, not the threat. As I visualized the positive mental movie, I drew my asset, experience, knowledge, and passion and forgot about everything else, and I rushed my confidence, and a rush of confidence swept over me. I refused to dwell on any aspect of threat. If the microphone went dead, or a cue card fell over, or a technician scurried around behind the cameras, I told myself simply it would make a difference. It would not make a difference. I went on stage and knocked them dead. After the presentation, I realized that this entire process happened in less than a minute, and it all took was to make it one small shift to the asset side of the ledger. Everything else flowed after that. Denise's story. I left my job at the State Department and moved to the Midwest with my children, where we were under 3 to make it easier for my husband to become a partner of a top-tier law firm. I was thrilled to the prospect of raising Justin and Carly in a less hectic and more balanced environment. For the first year, I was totally consumed with sizing up neighborhoods and preschools, renovating our new home, joining a church and swim club, parenting Justin and Carly. I hardly had time to notice that while I was successful creating the almost perfect domestic front, I was losing touch with myself and my professional career that had been my soul's work. One afternoon when I was particularly down and exhausted, decided to listen to my inner voice and gain some insight on how I might be getting my own way. You're having more lackluster today, and I recall commenting, I picked up the 31st toy that put into the basket, especially toddler fare. Is there one way especially approving to raise my IQ and EQ of our kids? And with all that, we all are organized. We have it all, and we are all organized, I thought to myself. As I listened to my internal battering, I caught my tone of sarcasm, self-mocking, too close to self-depreciation, self-deprecation for one of my own goods, and I wondered what had triggered this downward, self-deprecating spiral. Then I realized that I had been focusing on everyone else's needs but my own. Then I was feeling less resentment and realized that this time had come to also put an emphasis on what made me thrive, and I wanted to jump up out of bed every morning. I could still be a first-rate spouse, mom, and also get the feel of passion for learning, leading, and contributing to the causes that I have fed my soul so many years. I found out how to step into my book club and neighborhood council role and volunteer positions in a regional commerce of growth association. The cloud in my head began to lift. Couldn't feel my heart beating and my mind racing now. I made my passions my priorities, and they fueled my whole new way of looking at each day. Magnify what's best and focus on what's next. Magnify what's best and focus on what's next. Picture the moment when a toddler takes her first steps. Imagine her parents' reactions, their fascination and excitement. Cheering is automatic, criticism is non-existent, wobbles and mishaps are not even noticed. In the early years, it's impossible to learn and grow and develop positive senses of yourself without someone else letting you know just how amazing and talented you are. And this is asset-based thinking 101. The next time you want to thrill and moving on to the next level so you can beat par, start a company or write a book and get a promotion, double your promotion, parent a teenager or lead an organization or even fall in love, remember this asset-based formula that children follow instinctively. They follow your set of your sights on what you want and need. More past fear. Start from exactly where you are with gusto and self-abandon. Practice as if no one's judging. Build what you already know how to do. Add, shape, edit, and expand. Add, shape, edit, and expand. When you experience victory, celebrate. Set your sights on the next step. And please note, as an adult who wants to advance, you are required to play both parts of the toddler and the parents, who, by the way, cannot keep their eyes off the talents, strengths, unique capacities, and strong desires of their undeniably gifted child. ABT factoid. An ABT factoid, desire helps us grow. In 1968, Abraham Maslow published his landmark text of how human beings develop and grow towards the psychology of being. Maslow became a major proponent of the theory from which growing in pursuit of such positive desires as safety, belonging to respect, prestige, and love. He contended that the realization of hierarchy and desires results in self-actualization, a state of high satisfaction, autonomy, and mastery. Flawless living. Forget perfection. Asset-based thinking liberates you from the pointless need to strive for perfection. You realize the pursuit of perfection is not an asset, it's a liability. For a change in the way you feel about yourself, see your work in progress. Just like everyone else, each day say to yourself that for today you are perfect, for the way you are, always competent, yet always learning, always growing. Commit to making the most of yourself, and you will find the flaws that will fade away. Warning. Preoccupation. A preoccupation with eliminating flaws invites absorption, whereas recognition and reconciliation of shortcomings promotes a healthy and powerful humility that liberates you to move forward. Try this. Make a mistake on purpose. Commit your error and detracts from your effectiveness. Investigate where it leads you. Derive the wrong way to work that it takes twice as long. Find what you appreciate about the new route and extended travel time. And turn the wrong section to a newspaper or something you normally wouldn't read. Scan the headlines and discover something cool and newer that you wouldn't have found before. That you would have found before. Guarantee self-awareness will never lead to self-absorption. It will give you healthy amounts of self-respect, confidence so that you can achieve more, contribute more, and live with more an inspired life. Curiosity. Judgment plus skepticism over reactivity equals anxiety. Judgment and skepticism equals anxiety. Curiosity plus optimism times proactivity equals energy. Curiosity plus optimism plus proactivity equals energy. Bypass anxiety and build energy. Negative. Deficit-based thinking is addictive. It's addictive and it keeps your adrenaline pumping all over your sensory systems, operating on a code red. This metaphysical and emotional reaction tells the senses that you are prepared and ready to meet the next crisis, setback, or problem. If you were like most people who have grown to crave adrenaline rushes that come from a function on guard, then left unchecked, then you can lead to constantly anxiety, another byproduct to deficit-based thinking. It is a totally negative addiction that defeats us and blinds us to the better side of reality, the side that keeps us to pursuance of possibilities, opportunities, and rewards. Asset-based thinking is addictive too, but it is positive addiction that affirmations impact. The adrenaline byproduct of asset-based thinking is pure energy, not anxiety. Asset-based thinking produces an intellectual rush that serves your positive aims. Asset-based thinking keeps your senses on high alert, not high alarm. All systems are go. Your mind scans for the best of what can happen next. Energy is flowing through your entire body and imagination is turned on. The visualizations are possible, and you see how capable you are and how resourceful others can be. When you cultivate the asset-based thinking addiction, you satisfy cravings that bypass anxiety, build energy, and bring you to a wonderful state of being. Make assets your adrenaline. Interestingly, asset-based thinking is more rational, realistic, and idealistic, and emotional. It provides a balance of overly negative, deficit-based images we typically have of ourselves. Asset-based thinking provides you with a view of yourself and allows you to clearly see your strengths, skills, talents, and virtues. This asset-based point of view does not deny your weaknesses, faults, or shortcomings. It merely shifts your attention away from the negative energies they produce. It puts them into an asset-based context so you can become less critical and more curious about the counteract to compensate for personal deficits. The more you draw the power from your personal assets, your self-respect and confidence will grow dramatically, guaranteed. Being more in touch with all of your assets, distances, and flaws diffuses and power to hold you back. You will be in better acceleration under pressure, realization, untapped potential, developing rewarding relationships, and living a richer, more worthwhile life. There is to be no stopping you. Try this. Think about who you are and how you add value. Make a list of things, 5 personal assets, strengths, talents, skills, and virtues that make a significant contribution to your effectiveness. Next, think of one deficit, limitation, shortcoming, and weakness that is the most significant barrier to your effectiveness. Now, think about the challenges and opportunities you currently face. How can you leverage the 5 personal assets that you have listed in the meetings for your challenges and realizing your opportunities? This is called the 5-to-1 rule. Focus on the 5 assets of every one deficit. Put this rule into practice and you build your own momentum and the momentum of others who matter to you. Make assets your adrenaline. Your true passion should feel like breathing. It's that natural. Oprah Winfrey. Let passion be your power. Leap out of bed with your vision turned on. The difference between a person who is virtually engaged in life and someone who is merely going through the motions is a vision fueled by passion. Side effects of this kind of vision may include enthusiastic mood, confident posture, the look of being up to something, an optimistic, energetic presence, unbridled conviction, undeniable magnetism. Having a vision fueled with passion promotes a special kind of vision. It's a seeing that makes the future seem tangible, as well within the grasp, and you can feel, hear, taste, and see all that you desire. It is the source of being virtually and vitally engaged. Try this morning mental workout. Begin each day with a mental workout. Coach your first thoughts to a strong, clear, encouraging with this morning routine to keep you in from wanting rolling over all over to the back of your sleep. From wanting to roll over and go back to sleep. It's a vivid dress rehearsal that shapes what you can aim for and how you can respond to what comes your way. Review your most important objective by completing the following sentence. I am the perfect person to accomplish my DVD sets because I am the CEO president. Repeat 3 times. This dose of asset-based thinking will remain active for up to 24 hours. I am the perfect person to accomplish my DVD series because I am the CEO president. Knock somebody's socks off. Try this. Tell yourself an asset-based bedtime story. Just before you fall asleep, review the day's events and create a story from the point of view from how you realized your vision. Recount your goals you pursued and how you made strides. Note all tangible evidence of success. Ask yourself, whose socks did I knock off today? Hold that vision no matter what. Challenge your vision and comes in all forms from any direction and all the times. It's life, conflicting demands, expected downturns, changing of the grounds and innovative, the change of competitive landslides and landscapes that make you lure off new visions, of course. Hold that vision no matter what. Challenges to your vision come in all forms, from any direction, at all times. It's life. Conflicting demands, unexpected downturns, changings of the guard, even innovations that change the competitive landscape from when you may lure you off into a visional course. And when your vision is fueled by your personal passion, it is unswerving, unstoppable, always in focus, immune to distraction, and never in doubt. Let your passion, and let passion be your power. Joseph Sajna. Joseph Sajna, Polish painter. Polish painter, leading designer, director of the avant-garde theater, has survived at Auschwitz and Buchenwald. While in concentration camps, Sajna was confined to a standing cell, which was 4 feet by 4 feet, made of a cinder block, no windows, with a ceiling open to the sky. These cells housed 4 prisoners. Descriptions of Sanja's dedication of his art was amazing. Suffering his sleepless nights, Sanja's periods advanced his skill to build a portfolio of paintings. He stood motionlessly in the cold, crowded cell, fired his imagination to work it excited him the most, and is carrying representations of the beauty of landscapes, of skyscapes, and guided his visions. Night after night, Sanja painted minds of an eye paintings and visualizations in his palettes, brushes, oils, canvas vividly throughout his details of movements unfolded like a movie in his mind. He created a catalog space from wet canvases to dry. Painting was Jose Sajna's passion. He never stopped pursuing his vision while he was confined and deprived of the most basic tools he relied upon. Joseph Sajna said that the passion of his belief in himself as an artist saved his sanity and his life. Reflects. What visions do you have? What passions fuel them? We all have them in us. Reflections. Number 1. Make a list of 5 things that you have accomplished in the past week or so. Note, most of us did not receive the Nobel Prize yesterday, so do not be concerned with the magnitude of the accomplishments. List those that stand out. Number 2. Now reflect on the personal talents, strengths, and skills that you use making those accomplishments happen. Jot those down next to each accomplishment. Number 3, take a good long look at the notes. This is your ABT profile. Patterns that you see from which you leverage a particular positive patterns of skills, talents, and strengths. Today, tomorrow, and next weekend. Do this reflection on a regular basis, and you'll be amazed at how you discover about yourself and what you discover. We all have major blind spots when it comes to our own unique assets. Write down your accomplishments 1 through 5, and then your talents and strengths and skills that got you them. Write your notes. An ABT factoid is you are what you feel. Study in August 2002 issues of the Mayo Clinic Proceedings reported that people who expected misfortune and see the negative side of the DBT crowd don't live as long as those who are more optimistic view. Additionally, these asset-based thinkers had fewer problems in work than the other daily activities, less pain and fewer emotional problems, and increased energy. An ABT workout number 1. ABT principle. Magnify the best. Focus on what's next. What's the best? Focus on what's next. Magnify what's best. Focus on what's next. The principle magnifies what's best and focus on what's next requires you to keenly be aware of who you are and what you want to achieve and to contribute to each navigating demand. Chaotic situations, sometimes it's tough to be dimly self-aware, much less to be keenly self-aware. Now be keenly self-aware. When you get so busy juggling the deluge of pressures and demands coming from others and their own priorities suffer, you are more reactive to be proactive. Being reactive promotes self-criticism and feelings of being behind the 8 ball. Being proactive increases your personal sense of confidence and competence. When you magnify what's best and focus on what's next, you are proactive. You approach life from an inside out, not the outside in. You look at demands, even setbacks and mistakes in terms of how they can serve you and your priorities. You scan your environment and ask yourself, how is it possible for me to advance my agenda given in the current set of circumstances? Your day starts with envisioning what you see as possible, what you want, regardless of the current reality. Let your vision guide you, speak to you, coach you, tell you what to do next all day long. Listen to your vision. You set up a desire-driven way of navigating through everyday ups and downs, plateaus, proactively pursue things that ignite your interest, passions, determination, commitment, and energy, and ingenuity. You still respond to the needs and interests of others, to the requirements of pressuring circumstances, and transform every encounter into fuel for advancing your agenda. Magnify what's best and focus on what's next. Step 1. Mentally assign yourself to different roles, the observer and the navigator. The observer's job is to monitor the ratio of proactive-reactive behavior. The observer is your most valuable asset to developing self-awareness. The navigator is the part of you that intentionally, purposefully moves through the day. The navigator is you, the person who absorbs, filters, interprets, thinks, speaks, acts, and interacts. Step 2. Throughout the course of your daily activities, periodically check into your observer to register how proactive you've been, and ask the observer how I've devoted my time and my attention to my highest priorities, and how have I kept my priorities in mind while responding to the external demands. Note, the best way to foster proactive self-awareness is to catch yourself in the process of doing just that. Attitudes and behaviors that you recognize to confirm will deepen and become even stronger. Step 3. Whenever you get caught in a reactive spiral, pause. Ask your observer, what personal skills and capabilities do I have that can help me shift from reactive to proactive? You might find out that your ability to concentrate or to say no, or to show compassion, or to ask the time that you are at your disposal, ready to help you be more proactive than reactive. Step 4, reflect on your day. Give yourself points of being self-aware and proactive. Counts ways of authored your existence by influencing what happened next. Remind yourself of the moments when you let who you are and what you want to achieve and contribute guide you, and you'll show what you want to do and show you what you want to do. Note, people have better recall the episodes of success than the episodes of failure and are more optimistic, self-confident, and effective. Sonia Manzano, actress, writer, designer, and role model. Sonia Manzano has inspired and entertained kids for more than 30 years. Known as Maria on Sesame Street, Sonia has been passionately portraying positivity for Hispanics in the communications and community. In the interview with Hank, Sonia reveals that her role in Sesame Street led to a new and better ways of seeing herself, her heritage, her talents, her opportunities, even the glimpse of her mind and heart of the asset-based thinker who keeps on to reinventing herself. So Sonia Manzano, who played Maria on Sesame Street, just keeps reinventing herself. Hank, on Sesame Street, you went from being in front of the camera to being behind the camera. You started writing. How did you make this shift, Sonia? I felt the segments that addressed Hispanic culture couldn't been better, so I set out to write some of those segments myself. That made her realize the procedures were up and the type of procedures we were up against. We had to produce a show that was funny, educational, and a child and adult would enjoy, and I felt empowered because I knew that I could deliver what they wanted. Hank, what sparked your feelings of empowerment? What about your childhood was a catalyst? Sonia, when I was a kid, influenced by everything I saw on television, not seeing anyone like me made me wonder how I could contribute to society that didn't seem to see me. So when I wrote to Sesame Street, I always thought of myself as a kid and audience. In the case of little Puerto Rican girl was growing up in the Bronx, everything that I've written for Sesame Street has that me in mind. Other than Maria, who is your favorite character to write for? Oscar the Grouch, easy, hands down. Because the Grouch is either 8 or 48 years old, I can be more free with the character who works on several levels. You wrote a fantastic children's book called No Dogs Allowed. It feels autobiographical. It absolutely is. It's retelling an event of happening in my old neighborhood of the Fields is small, and I remember being huge. It's funny, my mother remembers those times of being tough. I remember them as being wondrous and well. Hispanics have been strong family ties, traditions, and rites of passages. In writing this book, I drew on my own experiences so kids can hopefully appreciate their own traditions, whatever that might be. Often people meet them, and they call you Maria or relate to you as her. So you have been proud of me. I haven't called you Maria once. Bravo! Now I want you to be Maria. Maria is exactly like me. Certainly everything that I've written at Sesame Street has a little bit of the background in it. But when the first started, I thought of her as a character wonderful who she could be. Then I realized that what the audience and the producers wanted, they wanted a real deal Puerto Rican. I think that that's how we show the successful, to strive to show real people. Kids get real life. What kids should get in real life. And I fell in love and I got married and I had a baby in real life, and we created a dual plot lines on Sesame Street. And you could say that we were the first reality show. Actress, writer, now a signer and an entrepreneur. You founded a design company called the Three Amigas. You can't help notice the Latin sensibility that permeated many aspects of the culture: music, fashion, food. I started thinking about the colors of my childhood. The tenement building doors opened my Caribbean colored apartments. The Three Amigas design company was born. We have a line of dishes, children's clothing, hats, accessories. We all hope to grow on a brand for the whole familia. Now, Who Would Always Be Maria from Sonia is even more inspiring and a positive role model for what's next for you. Another children's book called The Box Full of Kittens, and I'm working on a memoir. Great. Thank you, Sonia. And one more thing. Give me regards to Oscar. You got it. Let Sonia's story remind you that seeing and believing in your assets what also makes you into the gift of keeping on giving. Sonia's case is deep respect for the value of her Hispanic heritage, her talent as an actress, and empathy and compassion for children who feel marginalized was her desire to create an R combination of assets, fostering new careers and new heights of achieving throughout her life. Now that you've read part 1, be sure you identify your unique combination of assets that promote your success and create a rich, rewarding life. You can see www.soniamanzano.com. Check out Sonia's website. Change the way you see other people. Change the way you see other people, part 2, preview. When you read Julian Pfeiffers' story, you will see how he created visions that are irresistible and compelling to other people, and they are as himself. Whenever possible, asset-based thinkers set goals and inspire other people to new heights of motivation and achievement. This approach is placed to start. It's easier to see and tap into the talents and skills of your constituents when they are also ready and eager to jump in. It is far more difficult to view people through a positive, asset-based lens when they are turning away from the ideas or are in conflict with your direction. John's story illustrates just how tough and challenging this task can be. Part 2, illuminate how to use positive filters to get more traction when interacting with other people in all types of persuasions. It shows you how to react and reactivate a special instinction positive filter that we are all born with. Over the course of your life, your inborn positive filter has been overshadowed and shut down by deficit-based thinking. So you have to reactivate to it and reactivate it. Your ABT filters will energize your encounters with people from spiritual praise and accomplishment and acknowledgement for what they have to offer. You will see individuals as an asset and recognize he or she in works of progress. Just like you are, ABT encounters you to compliment out loud, often as notice to others in acts of generosity, brilliance, and productivity. The value you discover in your people will stay from which you stay can build on these relationships over time. The value you discover in people will stay with you so that you can build on these relationships over time. And there's another bonus that comes from ABT. You will be relatively unaffected by the angry outbursts, accusational language, difficult behavior, and scapegoating of others. Instead, you'll be able to deflect their disturbing behavior, suspend judgment, and investigate the interests, needs, and motives beneath the surfaces that fuel the negative behavior. John's story. ABT Real Stories. I'm one of those fortunate businessmen who works with a coach to help me get through the rough waters. I vividly remember the most productive long-distance sessions I ever had with her was like yesterday. On a rainy afternoon at JFK, I was placed a call to my coach. Judy was just before the board at 7:37 back to St. Louis when she answered. I didn't even say hello. I asked her, "How do you dance with Attila the Hun?" She recognized my voice immediately and sensed my frustration tinged with a unique brand of sarcasm. Judy picked up on this and replied, "Who would you have guessed that would have been on the one to discover Attila and Hun alive as well as in Manhattan?" She recognized my voice immediately and sensed my frustration tinged with a unique brand of sarcasm. Judy picked up on this and replied, "Who would have guessed that you would be the one to discover Attila the Hun alive and well in Manhattan?" That was just what I needed. Attila's first name is Mike, and every day he commits to verbal acts of carnage from his executive suite of Madison Avenue. We both laughed. Judy knew I didn't rattle easily, but she sensed that Attila, had thrown me off of my game, so I talked fast and she listened. I explained that Mike is a classic adult bully who attacks anyone in his way, and he wrestles the goods away from you, insults you to your face, and steps on your reputation with your clients. I can't work with this SOB. No trust, no tango. Good dispenses with the small talk. She felt that my pain, and I knew I needed support. She told me a story in 1964. Thich Nhat Hanh, an exiled Vietnamese Buddhist priest, traveled in Washington, D.C. to solicit congressional support for the ceasefire to help end the Vietnam War. Senator Barry Goldwater opened his inquiry by asking Thich Nhat Hanh, "Are you from the north or from the south?" He answered, "Neither. I'm from the center." Judy repeated his response to Goldwater's question twice. "Neither. I'm from the center. Neither. I'm from the center." I said with a great story, "But this does have to do with me and Attila. Then we were cut off, and on the plane into my second bag of peanuts, I realized the simple yet profound wisdom in which Titch, not Han's response was, with that one statement, neither. I'm from the center. He shifted the framework of everything that would have followed as a negative or neutral to the neutral or to the center. I started to see that Mike inherently adversarially always looked for the next enemy. I didn't have to be for or against him. Yes, he hammered first, but there was no reason for me to take a bait or take the bait and step into the fight. By stepping into the mindset of Titch Nat Han, the center, in my dealings with the mic, many more creative options opened up. Rather than putting my energies into how I could kick Mike's ass, I thought about how to minimize the damage he caused and use the destructive tactics to my benefit. He wasn't going away, so I had to change my view of the situation and take action. Liberating from this war mentally, I laid out my own plan to take on focus with Mike. Was first to contact my colleagues who needed to be advised with Mike's latest moves. Second, to call the meeting to solicit ideas to regaining the ground from which we have lost with my clients. And next is to keep people's attention focused on ways to use Mike's meddling to actually strengthen the client's relationships. And I became energized, more optimistic, and even eager to turn Mike's lemons into lemonade. Now I was playing by the rules of my game, not Mike's. When I got back home and checked on my voicemail, there was a message from Judy. She was concerned that she didn't give me enough time on the phone, and it was only that she knew that she did, and how much she said to me with those few words. Neither I'm from the center. Julian Pfeiffers' story. ATB real story. Classical trained musicians spend years honing their individual techniques, prowess, and interpretive skills in conservatories. Over, they find themselves equipped to play large orchestras from which to submit to authority of a baton-waving conductor. In the study of conducted in the 1990s, the Harvard psychologist Richard Hackman found the job satisfaction among musicians in 78 orchestras in 4 countries was so low that they matched the same negative job satisfaction levels as federal prison guards. Julian Pfeiffer's inspiration for founding the Orpheus Chambers Orchestra came from his days in Juilliard, where he experienced an inspiring intimacy of camaraderie among his peers, and he became committed to recreating the Juilliard brand of teamwork on a larger, grander scale. Pfeiffer set his sights on establishing an orchestral organization within which communication and cooperation could flourish. Without a conductor, he essentially turned all the musicians into an improvisational network of collaborators. Rehearsals became free-for-alls in which all 27 members of the orchestra participated in every decision, from which the detail of nuances, phrasings, and dynamics. It quickly became clear that trying to make all decisions unanimous was unworkable. So we divided the orchestra into core groups, whose members could rotate regularly. Each group rehearsed its own formulation of piece, presented it into the larger groups. Another innovation came in from the areas of sharing leadership. In a conducted-led orchestra, the roles of concert master is similar to do that of a team captain. In Orpheus, the role is like a player coach and is rotated. The concert master is responsible for running rehearsals, moderation debates, and negotiational solutions. Not only do the core groups and concert masters change from which concert to concert, they also change from piece to piece. This exclusive process allows each player to experience intense leadership training. With the vision of a collaborative, high-spirited culture in mind, Julian Pfeiffer and the orchestra members have established a financially robust, award-winning chamber ensemble. Orpheus now won world acclaim for his artistic excellence with an unusual high level of professional satisfaction for its members. Use your positive filters to get more traction. Asset-based thinkers learn how to reactivate the special instinctive positive filters that we are all born with. Over the course of our lives, and positive filters have been overshadowed and shut down by deficit-based thinking. Asset-based thinkers approach everything and encounter spiritual and acknowledge the praise for what they have to offer. They see the individual as an asset and recognize that there is work in progress. Just as themselves, they are not afraid to compliment out loud and often. They not only asset-based thinkers notice the acts of generosity, brilliance, and productivity, they value to discover those parts and people stay with them so that they can build the relationships over them. Thinkers notice the acts of generosity, brilliance, and productivity. The value they discover in those people stays with them so they can build on the relationships over time. Asset-based thinkers are relatively unaffected by the negative traits of others. They've learned to deflect the negativity, suspend judgment, and go beneath the surface that make contact with the positive motives that you are fueling the negativity. Get a charge out of conflict. Make an opposition matter. Conflict magnifies and illuminates who you are. It sees and starts you into seeing what makes you uncomfortable, pushes you to your boundaries. Intellectual, emotional, and physical conflict, if treated properly, offers you the chance of change your mind altogether. When faced with conflict, explore the possibilities that opposing force can also be true. Simultaneously taking the perspective immediately dissolves anonymous pipe's curiosity. You find yourself wondering, what's their truth? Where's the value of the other side? Where you finally give up the belief that yours is the only truth? It changes the game forever. Now you're in a position to see what new truth can we create together. Focus plus distance equals clarity. Deconstruct to reconstruct. Deconstruct, negative. You can diffuse the negative reactions by asking yourself, what would I be thinking or feeling if I behaved that way? Once you realize that disturbing irritation behavior is an integral part of everyone's repertoire, you can be less reactive. You begin to accept people from who they are and who they aren't. You facilitate constructive relationships. Reconstruct. Use asset-based thinking. Reconstruct is positive. Asset-based thinking to replace the pictures that you have seen in other person's negative attitudes and behaviors. Remind yourself of his or her strengths and the most attractive qualities. Bring more accurate pictures into focus and be based on the positive assessment. This new point of view is an asset to moving forward in the relationship. Tell the truth fast. Use asset-based thinking to give constructive feedback that will have an impact of the herd over the noise of defense mechanisms. Take all the time that you need to formulate the message. Then tell the truth fast. Tell the truth fast. People shy away from telling the truth when it might cause hurted feelings or trigger anger, disrupt the relationships. They hold back on the feedback that could another person change to actually strengthen a relationship because they don't want the conversation to backfire. Deficit-based thinking takes over. Don't let deficit-based thinking ever take over. Take an asset-based approach of realizing that having a difficult conversation is a way to break through problems and move on to opportunities ahead. Tell the truth fast. When confronting difficult topics, asset-based thinking fosters speedy resolutions and diffuses negative interactions to begin a healthier dialogue. Follow these 3 steps and be sure to formulate and to rehearse the conversations to start and end positively. Number 1. State the behavior that bothers you clearly and concisely. Number 2. State the impact of that behavior on you and the relationship. Part 3. Present the positive vision that you have of resolving the conflict and the disruptive interactions. Pluses. The positive note that you end up will set the tone for the action of the listener. Then relax and enjoy what happens next. Raise the collective IQ. In everyone's life at some time, our inner fire goes out. It is then burst into flame by an encounter with another human being. We should all be thankful for those people who rekindle the human spirit. Albert Schweitzer. Everyone starts with an A. When Benjamin Zander conducted the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, teaches new students who began the semester giving everybody with an A. Tangible regards at the skill and potential for each individual propels their learning and expands self-confidence. They are motivated to do what it takes to retain the A, and also builds an immediate bond of collaboration climate both between the teacher and among the high-achieving artists, who have normally been anonymous or competitive. Try this. The next time you are in a group of people, business meeting, familiar dinner, little league game, cocktail party, etc., look at each people and take a note from what you like or admire about that individual. Be specific. Select any type of characteristic from appearance or intellectual to virtue to skillfulness. Do this immediately before you speak to the person or while you are listening to what that person has to say. A marketing executive once told me that whenever a client pushes back the idea that you argued with him before responding to the verbal attack, he would make eye contact and say to himself, I love this guy. He's sharp and bold. I love his conviction. This asset-based thinking brought him time to think of a great retort, put a smile on his face, lowered his defense, and also got him excited to be in the conversation. In the middle of a conversation, tell him, I love this guy. He's sharp and bold. I love his conviction. Remember, people have an instinct for whether you are working with them or against them. And remember, people have an instinct whether you are working with them or against them. Intimate shamelessly and often. The fastest way to learn anything is to intimidate a role model. Think about what you have learned. Walk, speak in the alphabet, and tie your shoes. And learn early years. Learning and intimidating dominates. Learning by imitation dominates. For asset-based thinking, acquiring new insights and skills, imitating the values, beliefs, approaches, and behaviors of individuals they admire is a way of life. The pluses. Effective business leaders' biographical articles and books about leaders they admire to learn the secrets of success at the rate of 1 per week. Entrepreneurial women accelerate their success threefold by emulating mentors. Members of the Mankind Project, the worldwide movement dedicated to cultivating greater self-awareness and emotional intelligence among men, have a practice of honoring the legacies of previous generations of men who have paved the way for current advancements in male consciousness. Imitating what you admire in others and what you would like to acquire yourself requires becoming their student, not their judge or jury. As a student of an asset of human nature, you are now ready to spot the best of what anyone has to offer and enjoy. After action, reflection. After action reflection, make the affirmation zone work for you. The U.S. Army debriefs its personnel after major military operations as a way of understanding the works, and it doesn't, and how it might be done differently next times. This after-action review process is an asset-based approach that builds on both mistakes and triumphs. The most reinforcing question that you can ask anyone after the accomplished task is, how did you do that? The question affirms the importance of the accomplishment, but more importantly, it allows a person to reflect on what personal assets, attitudes, knowledge, and skills were tapped in order to succeed. Whether you recognize or praise someone in that way, it will last. Encourage conversations that begin with, how did you do that? When you keep probing until you gain the new insight, deficit-based thinkers most often ask, why did you do that? Setting the stage for defensive explanation of an action. Take this asset-based thought process one step further by asking, how did we do that? How did we do that to a group? No matter what the size of the group, posing the question helps them be alert of what's working to promote the satisfaction, inspire collaboration, and produce results. Bring people together in groups of discuss their answers to the questions. How did we do that? And that, and that, and that. Broadcast the responses. Watch the esprit de corps and collective IQs rise to new levels. Reflection. Number 1. Select one person to interact with on a regular basis at least twice a week. Pick someone you admire and respect and reflect on recent experiences that you've had together. Zero in on what this person did to simulate rewardingly productive and lighten your humorous interactions. Number 3, decide when and how you will communicate your asset-based observations of this person. Communicate through voicemail, telephone, or in person, not by email. It lacks emotional intelligence. Repeat this entire process. Only this time select a person who frustrates and annoys you. No kidding. If you do this step, you will change the way you see a whole new host of other people and who in the moment drive you slightly to moderately crazy. Here's a tip. If you do this reflection every Friday afternoon, it will help the next week go off to a great start. ABT factoid. Ties that bind. Feeling loved intimately and having trusted confident contributes to our self-esteem and our sense of mastery. Even during high-stress situations, studies by Erwin Sarason and his colleagues at the University of Washington also reveal that intimate ties with one spouse makes a special contribution to stress resistance. ABT workout number 2. ABT principle, use your positive filters to get more traction. Every type of interaction, from casual exchange with a clerk or grocery store, personal conversation with a good friend, or debate with a colleague, is a perfect time for you to put your positive filters. And here's how it works. Step 1. Before you interact or take a moment to see something about a person that you find valuable, admirable, or interesting, be specific. Consciously register your positive perceptions by articulating them to yourself. You might say to yourself, this person has a great energy or an attractive, strong presence or a calm, confident demeanor. Note, research confirms that the tone that you set, positive or negative, in the first 7 seconds of any interaction determines the predominant tone of the remainder of the interaction. Start well, and you are most likely to end well, even in the face of a challenging or disturbing interaction. Step 2. Let your positive perceptions of the otherwise or others guide you to say or do in the first 7 seconds of the interaction. For example, if you have noticed that the person has a great energy, that positive perception might lead you to shake hands with more enthusiasm or smile more sincerely than you would otherwise. The positive effects, will follow suit. It automatically will. It's automatic. The conscious thoughts about the other person influence how you interact. Step 3. Throughout your interaction, scan consciously, trigger on other things that you find positive and interesting. You may also become aware the person also has a great sense of humor or a skilled communicator or displays attraction qualities of conviction and determination. This silent asset-based assessment works wonders in any interaction. Making decisions, solving problems or setting goals, parenting the kids, discussing politics or talking baseball. Your ongoing positive commentary about the other person will be in the background for what you say and do in the foreground. Step 4. If your interactions become persistently negative and disturbing, find the positive motives fueling your behavior a bit more tricky. For example, if someone is making accusations, displaying anger, or complaining, switch to a stronger filter to see through the negativity and identify the positive triggers motivating the behavior. Often anger, accusation, and stonewalling behavior also triggers my frustrating desire for perfection, or to save the day, or to make things right, or to be more helpful or decisive. It is far easier to get attraction with the person if you speak to a deeper positive motives rather than react to the surface negativity. Note, if you are not sure which positive motives might be driving the other person's disturbance, just ask yourself, what might drive me to behave this way? The assessment can be accomplished in a matter of seconds while you are listening or speaking. Step 4, if needed. Some people ask, what do you do when confronted by people driven to greed or arrogance, my way or the highway, revenge or envy? Isn't this important? Deal directly with an angry, impulsive, self-serving agenda? This short answer is no. Ignore these negative agendas unless that you are feeling abusive, harmful, dangerous behavior in those rare situations, and take time out. Remove yourself, call for help, do whatever you need to do to stop interacting until it is safe to do so. Note, human beings have a finely tuned Geiger counter. Most, if not all, disturbing behavior is fueled by both positive and negative motives. Engaging the negative motives through the interaction further off course. Engaging the positive motives, it gets you back on track. Linda Gray, actress, woman, rights, and advocate, global change agenda. Linda Gray, known for worldwide award-winning portrayal of Sue Ellen engaging on Dallas, decided to use her talent and celebrity to help cause women's rights. Linda was named Ambassador of Goodwill for the United Nations Population Fund of Traveling the World Championships, universal access to health care, education and employment opportunities, and gender equality for all women. In recent interviews with Kathy, Linda shares asset-based secrets for building strong relationships and a life on the job. Linda Gray. Life on the job is to build stronger relationships, connect the story behind the people, what they say and do, and Linda Gray does it so well and so often. Someone's story carries meaningful because it reveals personal motives, aspirations, vulnerabilities, which brings the assets into focus. Once you see people from the inside out, they become irresistibly interesting. L. Wiesel, Nobel Prize winning Theragun, once said, "God invented people because he loves stories." Change the way you see situations. Part 3. Change the way you see situations. Preview. Marcia and Ed's stories, which follows, demonstrate how they were able to seek and see opportunities in their situations. The principle of the wider the lens, the better the view, can be effectively applied to any situation, welcome or unwelcome. The result is bigger, brighter, and a better view and benefits you and those around you. In Marcia's case, she viewed the computer conversation as an opportunity of itself. She could have stopped there, but instead, Marcia expanded the field of opportunities by linking the development of her leadership and communication skills to a successful conversion rollout. On a far more serious note, Ed's story shows how a major illness can be seen as a chance to deepen one's resolve to life and to live more and work more passionately. Any reminder of mortality has been a power to put in touch from which we should love of life so much. Facing this reality can illuminate what we really value and what we can contribute and accomplish. For asset-based thinking like Ed, looking through the lens of life-threatened illness, turn daily moments into gifts of time of loving who we want to love and what we want to love, time for reflecting and taking stock, time for playing, time for saying thank you and I'm sorry and hooray, time for wondering what's next and who we really are. When you encounter trials and tribulations, remember the initial feelings of anxiety are natural, but limiting the alarm alert reaction allows and narrows your perspective. It prevents you from seeing countless opportunities to expand your own competences and strengthen relationships as you deal with daily challenges and happenstance. Part 3 offers you numerous ways to unearth and enhance your benefits associated with whatever happens. Apply the principles of practices of ABT outlined in Part 3, and you will eliminate the situational blind spots brought on by anxiety-provoking circumstances. Marcia's story. As a chief technological officer of a top pharmaceutical company, I faced major challenges in implementation of a comprehensive computer conversation process. I had to overcome skepticism of over more than 2,500 employees, win over the hearts and minds, and make them believers. I knew that the conversion process presented a steep learning curve for everyone involved. But without the employees committed and the strong buy-in, the implementation would bog down and fail. But I couldn't pull it off. This was my big chance to make a significant contribution to expanding the research and sales capabilities of my company. The big kickoff meeting was here. I was ready to go in and geared up for the great PowerPoint presentation filled with facts, figures, strategies, and goals. All of my training and how to make sure the connect to my message was clear and logical and process airtight was kicking in. Interesting about the month before is I'd taken an asset-based thinking speaker development course called Power and Presence. Power and Presence. It was a very provocative and interesting department for all of my past PowerPoint thinking training. I wanted to push the envelope for the opportunity, so I put myself into an ABT mindset. The true power of persuasion lies in the impact a speaker has on an audience, not the presentation. I stayed focused on the thought of my PowerPoint deck, no matter how well written was the means to my end. Persuade, motivate, and move the audience to embrace challenge, be part of a solution, and take action. In every speech, I focused my attention on the audience to read the reactions in real time. If I saw the sense skepticism or confusion, I altered what I said I did on the spot. I managed to engage hundreds of people at a time in a real exchange because I made the impact of what I said matter more than the content of the perfection of my delivery. I saw every speaking situation as a chance to expand my expertise and repertoire as an effective, high-impact speaker and make what I was happening in the audience more important, focus on my attention and interactions. By widening my lens to see the larger opportunities, honing on my leadership and presentation skills, and selling the computer conversion. My commitment to the project, the company, and my personal growth and development grew exponentially. Ed's story. ABT Real Stories. I've always been lucky my whole life. Great parents, great Jesuit schooling, great wife Jane, daughter Lauren, beyond belief successful career. Throughout my life, I've always been valued to people with levels of deeply believed and involving caring and communication connects leaders into their organization and yields amazing results. Having an outlook that always doing better, everything could be improving, has been both strength and frustrations for me and my colleagues. My teammates would ask me, "Aren't you ever satisfied?" My reply, "Yes, but we need to do better, improve, and be competitive to stay on top." Then on a business trip at my age 52, friends noticed I didn't look so well. Little did they know I would be diagnosed with a pancreatic cancer. Completely unexpected. I was challenged like never before. Now my biggest challenge ever was overcoming cancer that has 20% survival rate. Connection to people would be key. He came from me from many places, people from whom I've forgotten offered help, contracts, prayer, humor, food, whatever could help. Speed, the decisiveness took over. 7 hours of surgery, 6 months of chemotherapy, 5 weeks every day of radiational chemotherapy. I never asked, why did I get cancer? I served no purpose. The key was to look forward, problem solve, and find the necessary strengths. My strength came from people, close family, colleagues, friends from all over the world. Lance Armstrong had been long one of my heroes. Like him, one to believe it's trained for life and performances, fitnesses and nutrition, enjoyment of life's great moments are essential. This belief also helped me to battle cancer. Outlook and attitudes are everything. My wife told me that I would be a part of a 20% survivors, and my ecologist said that we'd work together to see my first grandchild. On my boss, CEO of the world's greatest food company, as well. Wait for your return. He'll continue to be responsible. Today I'm back at work, cancer-free, 9 months after a 9-month battle. I've never been happier. Every day are wonderful. We are well fully appreciated things. At risk could be lost. My life is somewhat changed. It's crystallized, more focused, clearer, and simpler. People and their connections gave me the strength to believe, and even the biggest challenges could be overcome. All of his life so far continues to be lucky in the most positive sense. A positive attitude and believing anything is possible through people. Their support, love, cheerleading, and amazing capabilities are incredibly powerful. Above all, having in my spirit never-ending passions. A passion to win. The wider the lens, the better the view. The wider the lens is to keep your senses wide open. Don't miss a detail pattern, nuances that make your differences between getting by and just pulling out all the stops. In the face of problematic and promising situations, the formula is the same. Look along and look wide. Look at what's behind and what's in front of you. Look to the left, look to the right. Examine the situation, determine the problems, and see through them. Extract the opportunities. Be relentless in searching every angle. The more you see, the more you have to work with. And asset-based thinking begins in the privacy of your own mind. Every thought you have about given circumstances leads to an asset-based action and interaction. The conversations you have with yourself about any problems as possible is worthwhile, shapes your frames and exchanges you have with others. Asset-based thinking widens and sharpens your personal frame of reference so you can enlarge the perspective of others. This allows you to combine talents and strengths to multiply asset-based thinking to grow exponentially, making it possible to see and harvest an amazing array of benefits. Remember, the benefits better the view. Benefits better the view. Every view, every time. Shift from threat to challenge. Tomorrow, New York is going to be here, and we're going to rebuild, and we're going to be stronger than we ever here before. And I want people of New York to be an example of the rest of the country and the rest of the world that terrorism cannot stop us. Rudy Giuliani. Just breathe. Whenever a problem arises, your first gut reaction may be to alarm. The body's natural defense mechanism switches on. All systems are armed and aimed at fighting and fleeing the threat. Every communication breakdown, missed deadline, costly mistake heightens your focus to feel a shot of adrenaline restricting your thoughts and speeding your actions. What you may not be aware of is that your breathing changes too. Your breathing becomes shallow from your chest, not from the abdomen. Intervals between breaths are much shorter. So now they're short that you are hyperventilating, but shorter. A simple yet powerful tool that you have all disposal of breath control, your ability to shift your body out of a threat reaction into a challenge response by focusing on your breath. Slow it down. Take 5 or 6 deeper breaths. It should do the trick. Breathing deeply, slowly facilitates asset-based thinking. You become more creative and less reactive. It puts you in charge of dealing more effectively with the threat at hand. It triggers the excitement and being challenged and dissolves the fear of being threatened. Try it. Just breathe. See the problem as a pause. Often when you're witness of an emergency situation or traumatic event, consciousness becomes heightened and kicks into slow motion. Colors become more vivid, sound disappears, time stops and shifts. This is called state of alarm consciousness. State of alarm consciousness is an extension of an internal alarm reaction to an imminent threat or danger. It is a tremendous asset that allows people to respond sharply, swiftly, under an extreme pressure to perform. Those who regularly perform under high stress conditions, athletes, actors, soldiers, etc., report similar experiences in anticipation of what may happen next. You can actually replicate the state of awareness awareness whether the problem pops up impedes your progress simply because the problems see it now in slow motion. This allows you the chance to observe what's really happening, filter out the distractions, solve the problem fast, and get on with doing what's most important. Vigilance is a virtue, but don't go overboard. Sometimes the best solution is to ignore the problem or work around it. Don't get overwhelmed by problems that are sometimes intimidating solutions. It's not worth it. See the problem as a pause. Find other ways to move towards the goal. Avoid the 80-20 trap. Apply the 80-20 rule in reverse. Instead of focusing on 80% of your attention on problems and 20% of opportunities, concentrate 80% of your opportunities, 20% of correcting what's wrong. This bold mental shift as a perspective offers incredible built-in advantages. The pluses is to shift your perspective from deficit to asset is to live life differently, unconventionally, even courageously. When you put more into the focus of progress than imperfection, on possibilities than problems, on to challenge the dogmatic and deficit-based thinking in yourself and others. To most of us, facing a problem usually provokes us to cast a blame and assign a guilt. But what if you could reach into the depth of a problem and exact as an exactor or a treasure, a wealth of information that could propel the situation forward in a way that benefits everyone involved? Exponentially, this moves you into an affirmation zone in which asset-based thinkers thrive. Sister Wendy Beckett, a contemplative Roman Catholic nun, celebrated art commentator, and media star, once told Bill Moyers, "I don't think that being truly human has any place for guilt. Contribution, yes. Contrition means you tell God you won't do it again, you're sorry. Guilt means you go on beating your breast. You're just sitting in a puddle of splashing. You're just sitting in a puddle splashing. Making amends for flawed actions, yes. Making amends for flaws, no. Feeling guilty to either case, neither. Asset-based thinking makes sure that you consider your flaws, shortcomings, and limitations as important to you for who you are and what makes you work and what helps you know what you do and what you have to work with. You see them as complements to your talents, strengths, and capabilities. Hindsight plus insight equals foresight. We've all heard Nietzsche's famous phrase, "That which does not kill us makes you stronger." Whether you knew this is Nietzsche's or not, however, the middle of the traumatic event from which you lose your job or go through a divorce, make a costly mistake, or suffer a big disappointment, the phrase is a small consolation. You naturally zero in the deficits and example. What's missing? What's broken? What's not working? What's out to kill her? What's the kilter? What's out of whack? So you can think of your way of difficulty and restore equilibrium. The primal aim is deficit-based thinking is to right what is wrong and to get you back onto even. It's essentially a zero-sum game. If you want to move beyond zero so that your problem actually yields benefits and puts you into plus column, then asset-based thinking is what's required. Many people attest to the fact of hindsight suffering from blows to the worst. Most challenging disappointments and defeats have handed them some of the most valuable lessons and helped them to create a positive gap, a GAP, gratitude for those people who hung in there, for who dove in for help, appreciation for those bounty and blessings lives of living that living has to offer, in perspective, which priorities are really most important. Gratitude, appreciation, and perspective. These benefits are most likely seen in hindsight, but if you want to look at them in midst of dealing with tough situations and major setbacks, or better yet, what if you could anticipate them using foresight? When asset-based thinking dominates how you look at experiences past, present, and future, you can turn turmoil to the advantage sooner, seeing a sense of purpose, mastery, courage, and determination before, during, and after you encounter difficulty in incredible rewardings. The encouragement of discovering who is on your side, who can help, who can be committed to the cause, is well worth the search ahead of time. Remember, looking at a wrinkle on your face is not a wrinkle of badness. It's just showing all the years that you've been smiling. Create the future, here and now. I'm enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. Albert Einstein. Einstein believed that visual understanding must precede all other forms of education. In his younger years, he was thoroughly schooled in the mind's eye visualization, seeing that feeling, a physical situation, tangible manipulations, the elements of observing in his imagination, the consequences of his thought experiments. Einstein actually pretended to be a photon moving on the speed of a light. Mentally, he stepped inside of the photon and imagined that he could see and feel from the inside. Then he became a second photon and tried to imagine that he would experience from interacting. Then he would become a second photon and try to imagine what he would experience from interacting with the first one. ABT factoid. Perception creates a longer reality. Your perception of aging may also impact how you live and how long you have to live. In August 2002, in issues of Journal of Personality and Social Psychology reports that older individuals who viewed aging as a positive asset lived 7.5 years longer than those who had a negative view of aging. Join the Horizon Dwellers. Although most .com businesses fail, the founders of eBay visualizes what would appeal to integrity, competitive spirit, and creativity in their online buyers and sellers and succeed in the leveraging of a trust-based internet company economy. www.ebay.com. In the fact of the most potential devastating product tampering cases, the CEO of Johnson & Johnson made the bold move to recalling every bottle of Tylenol from retail shelves, living by the credo of his company that we believe our first responsibility to the doctors, nurses, and patients, to mothers and fathers is all over to our products and services and meeting their needs to every day from which to be high in quality. Today, the Tylenol brand is stronger than ever. www.jnj.com. When other web-based search engines were scrambled to build their own user and revenue base, Google put its resources into building and demonstrating better search engine that followed the credo from which launched their company, being service to the users. A great example of an extraordinary company founded and run by an ABT principles. www.google.com. Remember, everything that happens in your day is an exchange between the external world and your internal world. Think of it as a raw material replenishing itself every day. Every situation, every encounter, every person, including you, possesses valuable assets. There's something from the form of magnitude. Asset-based thinking helps you find them. With asset-based thinking, you discover the possibilities, detect the strength, mine the resources, and create positive momentums. It's your disposal. With your deficit-based thinking, opportunities loom on the horizon, but you deny yourself the opportunity to ever see them. Imagine it, and you can do it. Great visions live in the imagination before you manifest it in the world. Start each morning with a vivid mental movie of what you envision to be next, your best version of life. This includes aspects of yourself, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, relationships with other people, and the way you further your achievements in the world. Turn yourself on by sharpening your vision. It will give you the feelings of being in purpose, having traction, creating the life that you want every day. And remember this. Having vision makes life more meaningful and integrated. Be sure to integrate these themes of intimacy, spirituality, and the legacy that's turned you on to your next best vision of your life. Research shows that pursuing these themes makes significant contributions to personal health and well-being. Intimacy. Set goals that develop your capacity to relate with, express your desires for clothes. Reciprocally rewarding relationships. An example, help friends and let them know you care. Accept others as they are. Listen with much passion as you speak. Spirituality, aim for the ways of transcending yourself. An example, deepen your relationship with God. Notice your appreciation with windfalls and blessings or whatever it might be. Celebrate anything wonderful around you. Dwell on what inspires you. And the legacy is envisioning contributions so that you can make future generations. An example, be a good role model. Do volunteer work that enhances your community. Mentor, guide, and help. And imagine it, and you can do it. Laws of attraction. A magnetized piece of iron will lift 12 times its own weight. But demagnetized, it won't even lift the weight of a feather. Your mind works in a similar way. Magnetized, the asset-based thinking. You embody the laws of attraction. This means that what you think and say attracts the enormous number of internal assets that communicate and commitment support the dedicated efforts of other people, the inherited advantage, benefits, and rewards of every situation. At the end of the day, in asset-based thinking, you have attracted and stockpiled a rich reservoir of resources ready to be combined and invested for a great return. Use asset-based thinking to connect you with your assets and reservoir link of passions, visions, and skills set with strengths and capabilities of those who have attracted into your circle of influence. Next, notice how the particular continuation of individual assets connects with the potential of a given situation. Voila! Note, deficit-based thinking demagnetizes you. It sets you in a motion of laws of repulsion. You have to move through the day trying to live unscathed. Deficit-based thinking helps people and it rarely attracts anyone for your own cause for long. Focusing on problems, barriers, setbacks, and breakdowns is demotivational over time, unless your course for your survival at stake. Unless, of course, your survival is at stake. ABT Business Quiz. Each day, business situations arise that require us to be flexible in our actions and draw more deeply on our own capabilities. Build team spirit, develop underperforming employees, etc. Asset-based thinking won't eliminate these challenges, but it will help us deal with them faster, more effectively, enhance our effectiveness and sense of value. Here are examples of how looking through an asset-based thinking lenses can work. Which person would you rather work with? A deficit-based thinker. This was my best sales day ever. I know home runs are mostly luck. I don't want to get my hopes up too high. I certainly don't want my regional manager to expect more than I can deliver. I'll keep this success below the radar so that I don't set myself up for an impossible goal next year. People in this organization are chronic complainers and they whine about almost everything, and I wish I can get over it and move on to implement the plans that we have laid out for them. The business downturn robbed us from revenue, and we were also continuing on and caused some of our best customers to cancel orders. We'll have to retrench and cut our projections for this fiscal year. Or an asset-based thinker. This was my best sales year ever. Last week I hit 2 home runs. I'm on a roll now. I can make it go, and we're working over my regional manager. Hopefully he'll give me an additional resource to developing new customers and duplicating the results and set a bar realistically higher, and I can earn bigger bonuses next year. People in the organization lack confidence in it takes to get through the tough times, and I know our plans are strong, so how can I win over a few more converts and make their confidence contagious? The business downturn hurt, and it helped us better identify our most loyal customers. It reminded us of how important it is to stay connected to them and keep our incentive programs flexible and current. It also energizes us to find 5 new customers to make up the deficit. And the reflection is number 1 is recall the events of your day. List them in sequential order. Number 2, recount the story of your day of negative deficit-based perspectives. For example, it was late for my first appointment. Not only did I get stuck in traffic, throwing my rhythm off on my whole day, being late reminded me of the fact that it's too late. I'm too late too often. I must find a way to correct that bad habit. Go ahead, write or tell someone else the deficit-based version of today's events. It's cathartic. Number 3, next. You guessed it, recount the story of your day on the positive, asset-based perspectives, and describe the sequences of the events. For example, I was late for my first appointment, being stuck in traffic gave me a chance to start meeting my cell phone calls in a taxi cab. We were lucky to have a clear connection all the way. Starting the day like this reminded me of being flexible on counts in which I'm not in charge of my traffic patterns. You will notice the distinct positive differences in how you are able to feel after recalling the ABT version of your day. Number 4 is try this now. Number 5 is voila. Completing your exercise could convince you that indeed you are able to change the way you see any situation. At least we hope you are intrigued. The ABT fact. Matters of the heart matter to health. Matters of the heart matter to health. Research psychologist David M. Kleinlein and colleagues at Boston University conducted a series of studies in which feelings of love and affection for other people were seen to create a stable increase in salivary immunoglobulin and immune function response. It could be very well meant that, over time, loving thoughts and images can increase your resistance to getting sick. ABT workout number 3. ABT principle, the wider the lens, the better the view. Here's how you widen your lens in the face of everyday adversity. Learn to agree with what happens. See reality clearly, accept it, and problem solve with the vantage point and the advantage point. To agree with your reality does not imply that you must be thrilled with the annoyance of setbacks. You can have accepted attitudes without endorsing or reveling into them. With these steps, you can widen your lens and better your view. Number 1, monitor your first thoughts when you encounter adverse situations and traffic jams, missed deadlines, personal disappointments. If you thought you were argumentative, an example, I can't believe this. What do I do to deserve this? Well, I'll show them. Give yourself a chance to widen your lens. Number 2, widening your view by asking yourself, what is troubling me about the situation? Be realistic and specific. An example, I want to be on time now and I will arrive my schedule. I was disappointed he has failed me because I was always on the counter of a dinner date. Then ask yourself, what are my opportunities and possibilities now? An example, I can prepare myself for my meeting while I'm sitting in traffic and arrive in a good mood, or I can call someone else from my night out and find a good book and relax. Step 3, finally, generate action. Geared towards minimizing the downside of the situation and generate other actions aimed at maximizing the upside of the situation. Ask yourself this open-ended question. What if I were able to... Be creative with your answers. An example, listen to the great audio tape and rehearsal of my agenda, or call Bill. I haven't seen him in ages. In the face of adversity or opportunities, when you widen your lens, your perspective, the views, what's possible gets better and better. Narrow perspectives limit your options. Panoramic perspective expand your chances in capitalizing on whatever is happening. The notion of having blind spots is a familiar one. In addition, the actual blind spot of our peripheral vision, because of the way our optic nerve functions, most people find that the mental blind spots when it comes to qualities of themselves, both shortcomings and long suits, or others readily see. When faced with challenging situations, whether welcome or unwelcome, an automatic alarm or alert reaction tends to create a situational blind spot. Situational blind spots conceal the wide array of assets from which we have time to work and build on. In every situation, apply the principle, the wider the lens, the better the view, and you will eliminate situational blindnesses once and for all. Here is how you widen your lens so that you don't miss out on everyday opportunities. Illuminating the possibilities and opportunities that abound in everyday situations, circumstances increases your options, energizes situations, and inspires you and others. Here's how you see more and more possibilities and fewer problems. Number 1, step 1. At any given moment, in the privacy of your own mind, assess what's working and moving forward, and as you open up to the progress, make these observations even more all-consuming front burner issues that are dominating your attention. Use your mind to split screen TV, watch how you're handling your immediate issues, and note that this facilitated your progress, opportunities that have arisen, and how you've leveraged them. Step 2, focus on the matters that you have in hand, context from which you are operating. Ask yourself, what other opportunities are available? What options have I missed that I could engage and run with? Step 3, look ahead. What is the store in you in your hours to come? Get a glimpse of what you're moving into and how your immediate future will serve you. So, what's next? ABT factoid. Rainbows are circles, really. We only see the upper halves because the horizon hides the rest. Go beyond the horizon. See the whole rainbow. To acquire knowledge, one must study, but to acquire wisdom, one must observe. Marilyn Vos Savant. Acknowledgements. Thinkers who inspire. David Cooperrider, founder professor of psychology at Case Western Reserve, the practitioner. Meet the people who are involved with this book. The story. The Institute of Learning. ABT cue cards. Use the cards to create an ABT ripple effect. Start with yourself. Put them in the fridge, under a pillow, on your desk. Follow-up file, whatever. Then inspire colleagues, encourage friends, and share them with your family. Help others make one small shift to asset side of life, which will change your way of you seeing everything. Your cue cards. Did you remember to forget perfection? Pursue progress. It's much better use of your assets. Do you know what I admire most about you? It's never too early to appreciate someone's assets. How do you get a great idea to take off? Let your assets and those of others fuel your passions. Did you know that your assets are showing? Wear them proudly. Let others see who you really are. Did you know that your energy is contagious? Your assets take others to the top. How did you do that? Your assets are in perfect balance. Is what you see exactly what you want to see? Assets always better the view. Have you hugged your assets today? Embrace the wealth of your assets around you. Each choice we make causes the ripple effect of our lives. When things happen to us, it is the reaction we choose that can create the differences between sorrows of the past and the joy in our future. Shel Thompson. When you can change the way you see things, the things you see change. The imagine of the following pages can look like a photograph of a mountain landscape in the clouds, and the imagination of an asset-based thinker. It is the mountain landscape. In reality, it is not a photograph of anything. It's a piece of photogenic art created with wax paper, water, and light. Look again. What do you see? Change the way you see everything.